That's right, it's Warframe. Why? Because we're going to be playing this on the MMO Anthropology livestream tonight with my friend Raytac, and I figured I might as well take you into it while I talk about where I've been going with the channel recently and the sort of things that I intend to talk about in the very recent future. As you know, I'm currently an anthropologist without a thesis, and being without a project to work on, I immediately read everything. One of the things that I recently read that I'm going to do a review on is the Warcraft Civilization, a book by a sociologist who went into the world of Warcraft to look at virtual worlds. Also, I want to look at a paper from about 10 years ago on the laws of virtual worlds printed in the California Law Review. And finally, I'd like to talk to everyone about an interview that I had with Zeke Sparks, the lead designer of Cryptic Studios' Neverwinter, an upcoming MMORPG. All of this and a little bit more right after the intro. See you there. Welcome to know it's time to kill some Grineer. Oh, no, wait, that's the wrong intro. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to another MMO Anthropology video where I'm going to try to speak very shortly about what's been going on this week and what I intend to be going with soon. I'm bringing you here into a game of Warframe where I'm going to run around a little and shoot at stuff and tell you about the things that I've been reading. The first thing that I told you about earlier happens to be a book called The Warcraft Civilization, Social Science in a Virtual World by William Sims Bainbridge, who, as it turns out, is also a developer and a programmer, a person into computer science and, of course, into World of Warcraft. It's a lovely little book about the sociology of virtual worlds and virtual world anthropology, in fact. One of the more interesting things that he goes into is that he sets up a variety of alts across multiple servers, which is a thing that I have a tendency to often do personally. And he treats his alts as a sort of workforce, as a group who are, well, a group of students, or I should say interns. Each alt has their own personality, their own thoughts on the matter, and their own presentation of the culture that they're looking at in the world of Warcraft. And I thought that this was a very curious way to approach a game like World of Warcraft by treating each of his alts as an individual person who was in fact a research assistant. When I go into the stuff that he discovered and the way that he found that people approach digital identity, especially in World of Warcraft, we can harken back to videos that I've done with users and etc., like some of my friends. Oh, there's some bad guys there. They haven't seen me yet. Well, let me clear these guys out, and I'll move on to talking about what I thought of a paper from 2004, a decade ago. Kill! Incoming! I like how I can shoot behind me like that. So I found this paper in JSTOR from 2004 that was part of the California Law Review, Volume 92. It's called The Laws of Virtual Worlds by F. Gregory, Lastowka, and Dan Hunter. It examines a lot of the rules and regulations that rise out of communities in virtual worlds. I can't remember most of the key presses for this game anymore. I'm going to have to learn them by tonight. And some of the things that this paper goes into are still relevant today. They talk about how virtual communities work under a set of code that is imposed by the very virtual world that they're in. These are very poignant to things like... That's very kind of them. These include things like World of Warcraft, where moderators watch what people do and guard how they do it. He refers to games like There, which no longer exists, to things like Second Life, which have a thriving creative culture and even rules and regulations and functions in code that allow people to work with or design different creative elements or even grief one another. We've had some really hilarious virtual world griefing and bothering other people in your virtual world occurring in games like Second Life. And he even talks about how The Sims is another example of virtual world communities and the way that they interact with each other by generating their own rules and ways of interacting with each other. I've mentioned some of this already in a previous video where I talk about structured cultural spaces, which is what a lot of virtual worlds are. One of the things that Gregory and Dan Hunter bring up that I don't totally agree with has to do with cyborg rights, in which they imply that there should be rights specifically on avatars themselves, instead of an extension of the people who puppeteer or run the avatars, like their labor and work becomes what makes the avatar what it is. Like, identity in virtual worlds is a much more fluid thing than probably we understood 10 years ago, but it's certainly a strong element with the way that people approach them. Finally, I'd like to talk about an interview that I did with Zeke Sparks from Cryptic Studios about Neverwinter, the upcoming MMO from Cryptic Studios and Perfect World Entertainment. And we talked mostly about all the things that we can expect to come out of that MMO, but also something that I find very dear to my heart, the Foundry, which is a way for players to approach creating... Oh, I think a monster heard me. Oh, yep, and monsters are coming, so I'll be right back. Whoa. It's not good unless I die at least once. Okay, I think I'm safe. So we talked about not just what we can expect from the game, like the humor, the Dungeons & Dragons, the fact that it's set in Forgotten Realms and is a property of Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons & Dragons, But I also wanted to talk about the way that people interact with Cryptic Studios games. All the way from things as old as City of Heroes. They had the architect system that allowed people to make their own missions, although almost nobody played those in City of Heroes that I know of, at least. But there is the thing called the Foundry and another Cryptic Studios property called Star Trek Online, which I'm sure you've seen me do quite a few videos about, which has a thriving culture of people making missions that everyone plays because there's a distinct benefit and it's very easy to get into it. Neverwinter's Foundry was initially designed to be the one that was going to go into Star Trek Online, but unfortunately Neverwinter never arose way back when, so now we're getting it now. And so Zeke and I talk a little bit about where he thought the tools of the Foundry were out, the way that they matched or didn't match the ones that the developers themselves used in order to generate missions for the game. And I'm really curious to talk about with some people who create virtual online content in virtual worlds, especially gaming worlds that have specific gaming rules. For example, Neverwinter has a set of mechanics that all players have to interact with and interact in. They have classes, they have races, they have attributes, all of which define the way that you approach the game. All of these are fundamentally different from a world like SimCity or a hyper-collaborative sandbox world like you see in Second Life. So that's going to go into that particular video when I use my interview with him and I talk about how the Foundry and Foundries and user-generated content affects the communities and games. Meanwhile, I'm going to get going in just a moment and probably shoot some more bad guys. I'd like to pimp the live stream again. You can come by Friday and Saturday. We're generally up and running by 8 or 9 Pacific time on Twitch TV, MMO Anthropology. My co-hosts are two great critters. One of them is Arian Keith. The other one is Nelson Williams. We talk a lot about some very geeky things. We're very techie. We're very gamer. You should come by and chat with us, and maybe something that you ask or something that you are interested in will become a focus of one of these videos. Meanwhile, I've got to get going, shoot some more bad guys. This has been your host, Amorist from MMO Anthropology. This is Warframe. Good night and good dreams. Thank you all for coming along. That's about all the time I've got for today. If you like what we're talking about here and are interested in these subjects, be sure to subscribe. And if you're interested in speaking with me about what's going on, leave a comment. And be sure to leave this video a like. As always, like, comment, subscribe, or the Grenier will take over Uranus. Oh no, wait.